Hi and welcome back to Chef Hacker Kitchen. The Wednesday before Thanksgiving, my wife and I decided to order Chinese food to take out. But when I went to pick it up, instead of telling the woman there what I had ordered, I said to her that I was there to pick up the roast turkey and gravy. Well, at first she looked a little confused, and then she looked a little panicked. But then she must have seen my smile, because she smiled and she said that her son had come home from school and said, "Mom, you need to make a turkey because Thanksgiving is coming, and on Thanksgiving, everybody in America eats a turkey. So we need to eat a turkey." And she said, "I don't know how to make a turkey. It's so big and there's so many parts to it." So today, Chef Hacker Kitchen, for the woman who serves us our Chinese food, here's a hack for turkey. All right, so first thing we're gonna need is a turkey. This one is about 11.5 pounds. I bought it frozen. And so of course you have to let it defrost. You let it defrost in the refrigerator. For every 5 pounds that the turkey weighs, you leave it about 24 hours. So this was almost 3 days worth, but I defrosted this for 2 days. Now the hack for this is going to be, rather than putting anything in the cavity like a dressing, which is somewhat fallen out of favor, we're going to stuff the cavity with our vegetable trimmings, which is, if you watch Chef Hacker Kitchen, you know that anytime we cut celery, carrot, or onion, the ends, the pieces, go in the freezer, and then we use it for seasoning in just an instance, just like this, or to make stock. In addition to the cavity stuffing, we're also going to add quartered small orange. You can use lemon, you can use orange, you can use lime, even grapefruit. Anything that has an acid in it, that's a citrus kind of a fruit, it's going to bring out a really nice flavor in the turkey. We're also going to put salt and pepper in the cavity, and then we are going to season it with some thyme. Now some people will use rosemary and thyme. I just like the flavor of the thyme. I think it's a great poultry seasoning. Now, very important, it's a big bird, so you're going to need a big pot to put it in. I like to use a roaster. This is not the one I typically use. I have a much bigger one, but I didn't want to intimidate the watchers, the novice turkey cookers. If you've got an old pan like this, that's fine. You can buy an aluminum pan with a grate in it. That's kind of neat. Or you can buy a big one with a non-stick surface. It doesn't really matter. Any kind of a pan that'll fit your turkey and will be strong enough to support the weight of the turkey when you lift it will work fine. This is going to be cooked partially covered, so you'll either need a lid, something like this lid that comes with this pot, or you can use aluminum foil to tent it. Also, when I use my other pan to cook a turkey, there's a rack, and I put the rack in the bottom, set the turkey on top. It prevents anything from burning at the bottom of the turkey, and also it leaves the bird up above a lot of the juices that are going to collect, making it easier for us to use that juice later to make a gravy. Okay, so let's get started. All right, so we're going to get started with kind of a messy part of this job, and that is we have to take the defrosted turkey and we have to cut it out of the wrapping. And so I like to do this in the sink because you could get some juices dripping out, and I don't want it to go all over. So I'll go ahead and pull that off, and you can see there's a lot of drippings that came out of this. Don't forget, it was a fully frozen bird when I bought it, and so it's been defrosting for several days. So now I'm going to take it, and what you'll notice is in the center cavity, I don't know if you can see this very well, but there are these necks and giblets that are in there. So I like to pull them out, and we're going to take those and we're going to use that to make a sort of a stock. So between the neck bone and the giblets, it makes a wonderful stock, and we'll later on use that for gravy. But first thing you have to do is you have to rinse all the drippings off of that. All of the, it's kind of like blood and liquid that comes out. So we'll do that. Do the same with the heart, liver, and gizzard. Now in the old days, my mom used to grate this up, and after the gravy was made, she'd put those little chunks of heart liver and who knows what else in the gravy. But that's another one of those things that have kind of fallen out of favor. So I'm going to go ahead and put some water in here, and I'm going to bring this to a boil and let it simmer a little bit. I'll add salt, pepper, and a bay leaf, and that'll be what we use to make the gravy later. But now you can see the turkey is ready to go. I like to take it and I like to curl these. See this thin part of this wing? If you left it like that, it would burn by the time the turkey is cooked. So what I like to do is I like to take it and bend it under. This way it's protected, it won't burn as easily. Still may burn, but not as badly as if it was up at the top. Okay, so we'll move that to the pan. Okay, now I noticed there's this plastic device here holding the legs together. So we're going to go ahead and get rid of that. Now I usually have trouble pulling this out. So let's see if I can get it pulled out. If not, I'll have to cut it out. Yep, looks like it's coming. All right, good. It's kind of like a truss. All right, now I also like to typically pull out a lot of this extra fat that's in here. There's plenty of fat in a turkey anyway, so you don't really need that extra. Okay, that looks good. Now, I told you about the hack, and that is we're going to put some of the trimmings in here, but before we do that, we're going to shoot in a little bit of salt, and a little bit of pepper. Okay, and shake it around really good, and then we're going to put in the thyme. This is going to give a nice seasoning to this bird. We're going to put in the fruit, the oranges, and then we're going to put in the frozen vegetable trimmings. Again, that's celery, carrot, and onion. Now we're not going to eat these. We're going to throw these out after they're cooked. Their job is simply to flavor the cavity and the resulting meat as well. Okay, a little more of this here. Put it on top. This and this. All right, so now we're ready for this to go into the pan. Now, as I mentioned, the pan I typically use, I put this rack in it, but I realize that not everyone watching will have a rack or be able to get a rack. So what we're going to do instead is I'm going to show you another hack where you take some aluminum foil and you kind of just crush it up, but not completely, and then you set it in the bottom. So we're going to do that. We're just going to crush up some aluminum foil. You could also use an aluminum pan if you had one, like from leftover takeout or something like that, and that'll elevate the bird off the bottom. So we're going to go ahead and put that in. And now ideally, you don't want this to be touching the sides, because if it touches the sides, then there is a chance that it will burn, at least in that area. But now we're about ready to go. Now we're going to put this, I'm going to put a little bit of liquid in the bottom. I'll just use water. And then we're going to go ahead and put it into a 350 degree oven, and for about 15 minutes per pound. Now I told you this is about 11.5 pounds, so that means we'll have it in there for about 2 hours and 15 minutes, I suppose. We'll probably check it before that, but that'll be probably the total cooking time. Now, you have a choice to make. If you went ahead and roasted this at 350 for the entire time, what you'd have is you'd have a nice, nicely cooked internal meat temperature, but a lot of this skin would be burned beyond recognition. You wouldn't want to eat it, trust me. So what we need to do is we need to cover it for a portion of the time while it's cooking, about half the time. You can use a lid, like I'm probably going to use here. You could tent it with aluminum foil. That works fine. But the choice you have to make is, do you want to leave it uncovered to start and then cover it up for the last couple of minutes, or I mean the last half of the cooking, or do you want to cover it to start and then remove it? Now what I like to do is I like to cover it in the beginning because I feel that in addition to cooking as it roasts, some of the liquids that would normally burn out of the pan would just recirculate. So it keeps the turkey moist and keeps the bottom from burning. And then the last half of the cooking is when I like to uncover it. I'll know where we are, and everything is pretty much, you can always adjust. You can add the lid back on if you think it's getting too brown. It's just like I said, it's a choice you can make one way or another. I don't think you're not going to go wrong with either end of that. But as I said, I'm going to go ahead and cover it. My oven is already preheated, and away we go. Okay, it looks nice. Set the timer for about an hour and a half. All right, so it's time to remove the lid so that it can brown. So we're going to carefully remove the turkey. And let's take a look at what we're doing here. Oops. All right, it's looking good. You'll notice that there is a bunch of liquid in the bottom of the pan. I'm not sure you can see that. But one thing that did happen, which I wish did not, is that you can see that the turkey tilted a little on the foil, and so that could burn. So let me see if I can't level this out a bit. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to be able to do that. That's an argument for the using the rack. Anyway, okay, so now we're going to put it back in. We're going to let it brown up, and then it should be ready to rest, cut, and eat. Going to let it go another 45 minutes, then we'll check it. All right, so let's see how we're doing. Yeah, look at that, see? Got a nice brown look to that turkey. That is beautiful. All right, now we're going to use our meat thermometer, and we're going to go into a kind of a thick part of the leg and thigh, and let's see if we can't see what temperature we get. We were looking for about 165, and we got that exactly. And now you see we have a nicely browned turkey. It's got to rest for about 20 or 25 minutes. So we're going to transfer this to another container, and while it's resting, we're going to go ahead and make the gravy. Okay, so you can see that there's a bunch of drippings in the bottom of this pan. They have a lot of flavor, and we're going to use those drippings along with the stock that we made earlier, and we're going to use that to make a gravy. So we're going to use this pan to make that gravy. So the first thing we need to do is transfer this to another pan and let it cool. Now, I did wait about 5 minutes to do this because when the turkey first comes out of the oven, it's really going to be tender, and if you move it, you could break it into pieces, which would make carving it more difficult later. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this spoon and these tongs, and I'm going to go inside the cavity, and then I'm going to use, so that'll be one side, and then I'm going to use the tongs on the other side, and then I'm going to lift it, and if you have a heavy turkey, this could be tough to do, and I'm going to let it drain just a little bit, and then I'm going to transfer it to this other pan. So now I can set this aside, let it cool. I can remove the aluminum foil that we used in place of a rack, and then we can take these drippings and we're going to bring them over to the stove. We're going to heat them up, reduce them a little bit, and that'll be our gravy. All right, there's little bits of skin and fat here that we don't need, that rendered out. So we'll remove those. We did get a lot of juice out of this turkey, so I'm going to simmer that just a little bit and render it down. Okay, off we go. All right, so we're ready to make our gravy. I'm taking a look at the drippings that we have here, and the drippings look like we have, first of all, we have plenty in terms of volume, and the aroma is wonderful. And so I think I'm going to pass. This is the stock that we created from the giblets and the neck. But there's plenty here, and it's plenty flavorful. So instead, I'm going to take this and I'm going to save this. I'll put a lid on it, label it, put it in the freezer, and we'll use it for a soup at a later date. So now I'm deglazing the pan, anything that didn't get released during cooking. So I'm using this wooden spoon to do that. And I'm going to bring this up to temperature, probably just about to a boil. And what I have here is just an old jar, and I use it to make a slurry. This slurry is about 3 or 4 tablespoons of the stock that I made, cooled down, and 2 tablespoons of cornstarch and 2 tablespoons of flour. And then I put the lid on it and I give it a good shake until all the liquid has incorporated all of the starches, and now it's ready to go. We're going to use this as our thickening agent. You can see that the stock is beginning to boil, or the drippings are beginning to boil rather. And so we're going to go ahead and I'm going to whisk in the slurry, and then we're going to let it come to a boil and thicken. Then we're going to set it aside for later, and then I'm going to go ahead and carve the turkey. Now, be careful with the slurry. If there are lumps in the slurry, you're going to have lumps in your gravy. I don't really mind lumps, but a lot of people are offended by them. So I'm going to pour it in slowly, and I'm going to whisk as I do it. And this is going to incorporate with the drippings. The flour is going to collect some of the fat, and you're going to get a nice rich gravy out of this. Now, every time I make a gravy with a slurry or a roux, I get comments that say, oh, you know, you should just reduce it and add more flavor. Yeah, that's true. And if I was in a commercial kitchen, I might do that. But these videos are for home cooks. Here's how my mom did it. Here's how your mom probably did it. And it's a lot quicker and much more traditional than the reduction that you know, some of our super chefs will use. Okay, so now if you look at this, you can see it's already thickened up quite a bit. If you'd like it a little thicker, you could reduce it a little more. And what I like to see is just what we would call a liais, just kind of sticking to the back of a spoon. And that's about the right thickness for me. Now, time to taste this gravy and add salt and pepper if it needs it. But based on the seasoning and the that was included on the turkey, I'm pretty sure it's going to be fine. So let me grab a spoon and we'll give it a taste. Ah, delicious. All right, that's gravy. Now you could transfer this into a pot if you'd like, so that you could heat it up later, and I think I may do that. Okay, let's see if we can carve this turkey, shall we? First thing we need to do is we're going to use our spoon and our tongs again, and we're going to lift it. It's a lot cooler now and much less delicate than it was, but since the best turkey would be the one that would maintain the skin. We're going to still be very careful with how we handle this. All right, so first thing we're going to do is we are going to look to remove the leg and thigh. So you kind of open this up and you look, you'll see kind of a natural place to get through this. And I mean, you could use tongs with this as well, but I find it's better. So if you're doing this for family, you may want to get yourself some of those rubber gloves or those cooking gloves that everybody uses in the restaurant business. I actually prefer to wash my hands than to use gloves, but to each his own, yeah? All right, so now we're looking for the knuckle. And it looks like it is right about here. See, there it is, right there. Go ahead and cut that. And trying to maintain the skin. There, almost perfect. All right, a little piece of skin here. Now, the next thing you do is you look for this breastbone. And you want to cut right down alongside the breastbone. Again, if your knife is sharp, you'll have better results. And again, you're looking for a seam. And I see the seam, I see the bones. And looks like I've about got this one. Good. And this curves a little bit toward the back, right where that wishbone is. So you move your knife along the same way, and with a little bit of care and a little bit of luck, you should be able to remove your breast intact with the skin, and you can see the skin is still remaining with that. Now you'll notice I left the wings on, and the reason I do that is because it kind of acts as a base below the turkey, and it kind of seats it for you. Otherwise it would be kind of jumping around a little bit. So, but what I am going to do here is I am going to break that rule and just cut the wing off. You remember we tucked the wing so that it would not burn, and there it is. Okay. So these are nice and crispy. I like to serve those as well. Kind of destroyed this little wing, but that's okay. All right, so now this is pretty easy. I'm going to set this aside, and I'm going to show you how you further break down the leg and the thigh. So in the leg and the thigh, you're looking for the joint. And if you go on the bottom side, you can see it. Now you can slice the meat off the leg, but a lot of people, especially young people, love to pick it up and just bite into it. So I like to leave that the way it is. Then you try and remove this bone. You go alongside either side of the bone with your knife. Okay. And you should be able to lift that bone out without too much trouble. Now, because we cook this to the right level of doneness, it kind of makes it easier. If you find you're having a lot of trouble getting through the meat to the bone, then that means it probably was undercooked. If it falls off the bone, then that probably means it's overcooked. But as you can see, this is tender, but it's still juicy, partially thanks to us waiting before we cut into it. That 20 minutes is magic time. And then you can go ahead and put this here like this. Now, if you needed to, you could pop this in the oven for a few minutes, or you could eat it cool. Some people don't like it piping hot. Now, for the breast, the grain runs kind of this way, so you want to cut it across. And looks like my knife could use a bit of sharpening here, but and then you'll get nice pieces, and you'll notice that the skin pretty much is staying right where we'd want it to be, right? Oh, well, not that piece, but the pieces before that. Some people say, oh, you really should baste it with oil or butter, or you should throw some maitre d'hotel butter underneath the skin, but I love the flavor of turkey with gravy. So, especially when you get a little bit of crisp skin on there. So I don't do that. You're welcome to do it if you like, but again, I love the flavor of turkey. All right, so now you're ready to go. And to my friend at the Chinese restaurant, I'm pretty sure you could do this. If you like this video, please go ahead and hit the like button down below. And if you find these videos valuable, go ahead and subscribe so you'll always know when we make a new one. I'll see you next time in Chef Hacker's Kitchen.